but I'm not gonna. I will. So I shut this one off. How can you? Oh, yes, you can. I can hear me. Um, Been a really hard week for me. Um, I started on Monday and I did something I hardly ever do. I started writing my talk on Monday and it went really, really well. That was great. On Tuesday morning, we had a friend call us and tell us that after 10 years of a relationship, the person had thrown her out of her home. On Wednesday morning, I got a phone call from a friend's son telling me that his mother had died in a car accident and his father was in the hospital with a compound fracture of the right leg, lacerations of the hand that required surgery, and a dent in his head was going to require surgery. And then Linda called me and told me Tom was in the hospital. And then Nancy told me that her Roger had COVID and was sick again. So it's been difficult. Um, I've spent a lot of time at the hospital with my friend and his sons. They've been at my house to sleep and rest. And my wife, she didn't abandon me, but she went to she went she went to see her son in California. So with that in mind, I'm supposed to talk about flowing in faith. So I would like to thank the Be Delightful Trio for that thing. I could stop right now because what they talked about and sung about, well, what I'm going to try and say similarly. I've thought a lot about this being a new year. And after my beginning of this week, I thought, can one day make a difference? It's 365 old days, and then this one new day, can that make a difference? Is a new year, a new day, can it make a difference? As I wrote on Monday, before my week, I said unequivocally yes, because out of every day, we can always choose what's going to happen to us. Every day. The tenets of this church, one of them says, I create my life by what I choose to think, feel, and believe. And if you've never heard me give a talk, which nobody in here is like that, I say this a lot. I refer to those tenets as really guidelines for living a life of faith. They are so strong and so powerful when you live them. And that's the trick in that thing. I create my life by what I choose to think, feel, and believe. The fifth tenet says, I do my best by living the truth I know. Two parts to that are really important. By living, those two words, by living, that's a call to action. What are you going to do to live your truth? That's the second part of it. That's going to drive me crazy. It's the feedback is. Thank you. Yeah, it's done. It was just singing to me, and it was anyway. Um, the idea that there's action and faith, and the best part of that thing is that I cannot give you my faith. I believe in the tenets of this church. They are guiding signposts for me in my life. Do I follow them all the time? No. No, I don't. but they are the place I return to when I get ready to do something or when something important comes to me. I've thought a lot about this, faith and how we get it and stuff. I remember somebody when I was much, much younger than I am now asked me, "Do you think God has grandchildren?" And I don't know. I'm not God. And how can I know that? And he says, no place in the Bible, not a single place in the Bible says God's grandchildren. It talks about God's children over and over and over again. That's you and I. That's everyone. Everybody. Totally inclusive. Beyond anything about inclusive that we can actually understand, I think. The divine is there for everybody in the same way, all the time. So we have to choose our faith. I've chosen mine. You get to choose yours. To make this really clear, I know everybody in here had no hands out, so there's no aliens here. No, you're not. Okay, you're good. But since the rest of us have parents, we all know that even, like in, in all my life, I believe I saw my mother in church for sure 2 times. That's it. However, I was sent to church all the time. I went to Methodist church, Congregational church, Lutheran church, but our parents can't give us the faith. That's something we must choose. That's grace. The grace of God allows us to choose what we're going to believe. And hopefully what we're going to act on in our lives is so important. So here we are in this new year talking about the flow of faith in our lives. And how do we get there? How do we get to be flowing in faith? Well, good for you. Did you know you're participating in your flow of faith right now? You're in here at church listening to me. Now, that's your choice. I can't be blamed for that. But that's an act of faith. Every Sunday you're here. Every time you do something as an act of kindness because somebody else is in need and you reach out to help them. It's an act of faith. We do it all the time. But it's really important that it becomes more and more a cognitive response. It's a choice we make, not just an accident we do. Acts of kindness are acts of kindness. And hopefully you do them automatically when somebody needs help. I was in the hospital one of those last few days, and my shoe had come untied. I must look pretty frail because a nurse comes by and said, "Sir, would you like me to tie your shoe?" I I smiled, but no, I can get it myself. But again, an act of kindness, this woman, not because it was her job to tie my shoe, but because she was in a place where she saw some of them needed to have their shoes tied. They hadn't got the Velcro shoes. But that process of always being ready and willing to step out and be part of that thing that we call faith is really, really important. Don't like doing this, but I have to refer my notes. Download them. Usually I take a great deal of time practicing this stuff so that I don't have to do it. Not today. one of the important things that I've learned in giving these talks and reading a lot about what Charles has to say, Charles believes that we're ever evolving upward, we're ever growing in our faith, that eventually we're all going to come to the conclusion that we are divine beings. And it's not going to be something you say in your head, because I can say that in my head because I've read it so many times. And when that statement starts coming from my heart, and I quit having faith in it, but actually know that I am a divine child of God, and my acts reflect that. But in this process of ever going upward in the spiral, to the point to which we become knowledge of our own divine divinity, and we start acting on it and living on it. That's where Charles says we're going. So how do we get there? There's, what I said you're doing one thing right now. You're doing. That's an act of faith. What we did last Sunday was tremendously powerful. Susan had us do that black stone ceremony where we took something and that we do not need to take this forward with us. And we all came up here and stones in that bucket of water or whatever that was. And we let that go. Simple thought. If you let it go, you can let it go. Now, some of us sometimes think that maybe we should take those things back just for a little bit longer, because I'm not quite ready to let go of being angry at somebody or something. We sometimes grab that back, and I have a problem with judging things and people, and when I become really aware of it, how somebody's really affecting me that way, I really have prayed about that judgment part, and it's been great. In this one incident, I prayed really hard for about a week and then just really tried to let it go. Incredibly, up until about a week ago, I had to let that thing go. And then that person that I had been praying about, not being judgmental about, came in the back door and said, "Can I help you do this?" And I was standing there thinking, boom, there's the judgment again. And I had to stop and think. And it took me a better part of 2 hours or 3 hours to finally go, yes, you may help me. But that's because I had to let go of it just a little bit more. A little bit. We are all in that situation with people, whether we're adult children of alcoholics or survivors of some kind of childhood trauma, or whatever it is that's holding us back in our lives. We can let those things go, but it is hard work. And here's the other horrible part about this faith thing. Faith wants us to go there. And you know what it will do? It will give you the opportunity to confront those things over and over again in your life until it breaks through and you move past them. God, the divine, was, other people said, even if you want to call it peanut butter, that thing that is greater than ourselves wants us to know who we are. That energy, that intelligence, that power wants us to know that we are divine beings. Divine beings. We can change the world. What would happen if one more person in this world became divine being? I believe it would be like a great big one of those things where the ball rolls down the hill and knocks you. All these things all the time, all the dominoes fall down. Because once we see that it's truly possible, we cannot deny it anymore. We step into it more and more assurance it's true. I thought about saying this, but I slipped it out towards it. I say, but I will say it now. If Christ was standing here right behind me, and you guys could see him when I put him, he's filling this whole thing with love and light. You will still have to choose. Even in the presence of the Christ, you will still have to choose. There's no way around it. You must choose. Have faith that it's true, and that you can bring that light into the world. In whatever way that you do that, by living the truth, you know, not me, you know. When Linda asked me to talk, we started talking about the idea of prosperity. It was kind of a setup. She was setting me up because she didn't tell me that Susan was going to do this class until sometime after I'd written the talk. But prosperity, living in a prosperous life, is living in a faithful life. You have the things you want and need. So I'm pretty compulsive. So this is Charles Fillmore's book called, it's called Prosperity. Look at all these little things here. I'm going to only read 130 of, no, I'm not going to read one of them, but I am going to give you a short little blip on 3 of the things I think that thing says. And then if you go to the class, I'm sure that Susan is going to inform us more about that. But also the Tuesday book group is going to read that book as their book here in a couple of weeks. Anyway, prosperity. Obviously, when I read this book, it's not all about money. Okay? That's really important for you to know. Prosperity is not about money. It's the quality of your life. One of the things Louise heard, I believe, was at a Science of Mind service in Salt Lake, that he, let me finish this up. You tithe or you give where you're spiritually fed. So wherever you're, your time and effort, your time. Well, book by Charles, the idea is that there are 3 things that I wanted to point. One is the idea of mind action. What you hold in your mind will produce time. Want to think bad thoughts? Don't do it. It's scary. You create that. You bring that into your life. It's really hard for me to accept that I bring that stuff and I draw it to myself. But I am just paranoid enough in the world that I do think those thoughts. I do struggle with that. I need other things too. That's really I should not be responsible. But the same is true of good thoughts. What you think will, you bring into your life. One example I can give is when my youngest daughter was graduating from St. Louis University in upstate New York. See her, and she said I could. I had to ask her. But she told me she didn't really want me to be there. Her mother was going to be there for graduation. So I said, I'll come. When do you grow next? Because she was on the rowing. So I got to go up and watch her row. But in the 2 or 3 weeks before going there, every day, as I went to sleep, I would go through, I'm going to get on the airplane in Missoula. I'm going to fly to so-and-so, then I'm going to fly to Syracuse. I'm going to rent a car. I'm going to drive to the college. I'm going to get my room, and then I'll go see my daughter. And then when I get done seeing my daughter, I'll do those things in reverse until I come home. Flawless. Flawless. Everything went as I planned it. Everything that I could think of that way. So actually getting there and getting home was easy because I put that in my mind that it's going to be that. So the second thing that Charles says is that you got to circulate your money. And I love this because it's just the magic game. Hang on to it, look down and it's not. It plays it, spend it. So, but you have to, that's the circulate. Again, that's another way of talking about circulation. But you have to, you can't hang on to it like it's, yeah. The last thing, this is one thing that I never want to talk about in church is tithing. So tithing, they say it's 10% of what you do. I would tell you that you should tithe where you're spiritual. Wherever that's at, tithe where you're spiritual. Now, some years ago, when my wife was down in Salt Lake, she read this book, The Divine Laws of Prosperity by Catherine Harvey. Some of you who don't know me, there are over 400 pages in this book. I probably only read 3 books in my entire life that have had that half that many pages in the book. That's a lot for me to read because I'm a very, very poor reader. But the only thing that really touched me, so 20 years ago, I decided to tithe. Now you have to realize I've gone to church as an adult and as a child forever. As an adult, I bet I never gave more than $15 to a church in a month. I didn't think about it. I just figured, oh, the church is going to be there. If somebody pays the minister, I didn't have any idea who did. But I made the commitment 20 years ago to tithe. I had no savings. I didn't have anything. In the last 20 years, I've never missed a payment on anything. I've been able to give money to this church every month. I've bought 2 new cars, a table saw. I've gone to Pyramid Lake to fish 3 or 4 times. I've actually hired guides, and I've gotten almost everything I've wanted. I can take care of my home, my family, my children. But I haven't been able to create the kind of prosperity that can send me to Brazil to fish for peacock bass. I haven't reduced the money to the longboat ride up the Rhine River because I'm still struggling. And I think that that at this point in time of being in this church for over 30 years, listen to everybody else talk and tell me how wonderful we all are, that I could somehow get rid of that. No, I'm still working on it. I'm still in that spot that I'm falling on faith, on life. Not there yet. But I can choose to do whatever it takes to move forward in life. I made it this far. not believe, not have faith. I want to know that I am a divine child. I want to live that, whatever part of my life is left after that point, in complete love, compassion, understanding, joy, light, whatever adjective you want to use to describe the divine. That's where I want to be. Some people tell me that's ridiculous. You'll never make it. No, it is possible. But Christ did it. And if you don't think he did not evolve, you have not read the Bible. Christ evolved from one place to the next to the next. Father did it. I can't tell you that the Father did it. No, the Father and I did it. I am one with the Father. That's evolution. That's where I know all of us, not me, not just me, we all have that capacity within us. Flowing in our faith will bring us there. It may not be like maybe a couple lifetimes from now. It might. I don't know how many people do it. But it is possible. We all have a choice. Where you want. It's a challenge. Wonderful. You all take it. Go back. God is all good, present in everything. That's like gravity. That's something you cannot change no matter what you believe or don't believe. God is good in everything, everywhere. And you are naturally good because that God's divinity is in you and everywhere. That's gravity. Nothing can change it. You can't do anything about that. However, you do create your life by what you choose to think, feel, and believe. What do you think, feel, and believe? What are you going to use that? Through affirmative prayer and meditation, you come in conscious contact with God and bring out the good in your lives. What are you going to do? It's a call to action. But this one, don't ever, ever forget the fifth tenet, because it is one way, from my thinking, it's the best. You create your life. You choose. I bring out, what is it? I just lost it. Please help. Say it again, please. When you're there and that place of acting on your belief, it doesn't matter what that truth is for you. It's your truth. And if you act on it, you're moving in your faith and creating better life for yourself. Simple. Do what you believe. Not what I say, not what Susan Gum said, no what Unity of the world says, no matter what Michael says or whomever else speaks at this church. No, do what you believe to be the truth of your life and act on it. For you are a divine child of God and you are glorious. And I bless every one of you. Let's take a minute and we'll have a short meditation. So, big breath in and out, and in and out. Now, I do want you to imagine the Christ, Jeshua ben Joseph, standing behind me in all his glory. He's not just 6 foot tall, he's 9 foot tall. He's a brilliant light. And all you can feel is that you are being loved as you have never been loved before. Every hurt, every fear, every doubt that you have ever had melts away. You can watch it. It just melts away into nothingness. In that presence, you feel the freedom that you've never felt in your life. Complete, total, unobstructed freedom. Then the Christ speaks. Brothers, sisters, I am the way shower. I am the lamplighter. Your faith has set you free. Come and follow me. We are the children of God. We are brothers and sisters with the Christ. Breathe that deeply, deeply into your souls. Anchor that thought in your hearts. So when your mind, in its silliness, tries to tell you something different, your heart can tell you, don't listen, for you are a child of the living God, brothers and sisters with the Christ. Trust it, have faith in it, and move forward in your lives. Take a couple another breath or two. And find yourselves back here. I believe we can do our prayer for protection now. It's going to be on the wall. Again, I'm going to ask that you say I, not we or us. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Claim this for yourselves. So let us, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light. Love of God enfolds me. I am the love. The power of God protects me. I am the power. The presence of God watches over me. I am the presence. Wherever I am, God is, and all is well. I am one. Thank you. Let's form our circle and we'll sing our prayer for protection.